So let me ask you real quick here. Can you hear sound?
What?
No, like can you hear the background sound at all? Like anything at all right now?
No. Absolute silence when you stop talking.
Excellent. Okay.
You got a fuck fest going on behind you that I can't see?
I mean, something like that, I guess. So I'm actually
Something like that? I was
like
kidding.
No, I am in the process of 3D printing our last place trophy for fantasy football this year. So I currently have the base already done up. And atop this shall sit a golden poop.
That's hysterical. I do want to just go ahead and say that you printing a trophy is nothing like a fuckfest, which you said it was like a fuckfest. That's not
fair.
A fuckfest.
No, there's lots of sounds.
It's not even fuckfest adjacent.
And then Kayla's watching a movie upstairs that was loud a minute ago. So it was like, I actually screwed around with my sound settings a bit here because I screwed them all up because I finally played a metric crap ton of Aero GPX.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm not used to actually playing games on my computer and wanting sound to happen. So I had to have that, and my sound settings were all jacked up, so I had to put them back to how they were.
I think we have a mission statement here. It's on our t-shirts, and that is quantity, not quality. So if people hear movies in the background, a trophy being created, or even a fuckfest, I think they've been warned. They've been warned.
They know. They know at this point. You should know.
You should
know better.
You should know. All right.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zachariah Van Sliders. You have chosen, for whatever reason, to listen to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. But I'm not alone. Usually I am never alone. With me is...
Nick, Tiny Wizard.
Yeah, here we go. Horrible Podcast coming at you. I'm probably really short. I mean, I've ruined it now. I've jinxed it now. But we have a very bare-bones show for you today.
I really don't think... I will be shocked.
I will be surprised if this
shocked.
is a long episode. We have almost no news. I think everybody's kind of clammed up for
Everybody's
Gamescom.
waiting for Gamescom, yeah.
I mean, there was a couple of trailers in the wind, but nothing I felt the need to talk about. There's almost no fan traction. We only have one, maybe two news stories. And but our talking point's fun. We're each going to pick more contemporary games. I mean, not contemporary from the last year, but maybe the last 10 years or so, last few generations. And we're just going to try and pick three that we think are going to stand the test of time. Be forever remembered and forever recognized on and forward. Gaming royalty, I guess, is what we're looking at today. So we're going to do that. That'll be a fun topic for us to gab about. And you guys get a little show. It'll be nice, hopefully.
Just a little show. It's hopefully. Small. You can fit it in the palm of your hand.
Palm of your hand. It's not
going to get too big.
It be 2.5 hours. All right.
2.5 hours.
We're going to take a quick break and come back with fan interaction. But before we do, we got to thank the people who make this show possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you see a custom graphic that is provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all the shows here and Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Siders. We thank him for that. We will be right back with a very short fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the first segment and the most important segment, that is fan interaction. That's where we talk to you guys, the fans. We only had one comment this week, and it is a very short throwaway comment. So I don't think anybody had anything to say about last show. And it's not William Hooen. So William Hooen, If you forgot to post, no problem. If you just didn't want to post, also no problem. But I know sometimes YouTube will cancel your crapola. And if they did...
It's always funny. It's always funny whenever he doesn't comment. It's like, it's no problem. No problem at all. No problem at all. I promise there's absolutely no issue. I just want to make sure, that I haven't said anything or I haven't done anything. I just want to make sure everything's good. Everything's okay. I promise there's no problem. There's no problem. And it's the same thing. It's like, is there a problem? Are you okay? Is there an issue?
Right. Right. Exactly. It's very confusing. We're just so used to him posting.
Yes,
is what it comes down to.
That was like with Kev. When Kev didn't post, it was like, you cool?
Yeah,
cool, bro.
Everything all right? Yeah. And when Kevin, R.I.P. Kev, when he would post, a lot of times I'd get mad at him because he would post some shit at me, and I would fight with him. So then he wouldn't post the next week, and I'm like, oh, did I actually piss him off?
I almost feel like he's part of the reason why the podcast turned the way that it did. Yeah. Because early on in this, it was always just, yes, sir, I agree with your point. Yes, your point was also good too. This is fun. This is great. And I remember he would constantly be comments just like,
fight
you guys should argue more. Fight each other.
Yeah.
Just fight about something.
Fight
please.
each other. Yeah. I mean, even back then we still agreed and disagreed. I think there was at some point a drop off of my hope versus yours, which you retained some and I just lost all. So I think that kind of adds to the few arguments we get into. But the one comment that we got, because I asked what he was talking about with Otto, and Jason said, Otto, Simpsons, bus driver. I had said that I might be driving a bus for my kid's school.
There you go.
I get it now, Jason. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it. That was the one and only comment we had last week, so we're going to move right along. There's no reason not to.
Oh, let's move.
I mean, that's it, I guess. I got Skyrim to play for the 97th time. All right, we'll be right back with our talking point.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it brings us to our talking point this week. And like I said, we decided there's not a whole lot of news. So we wanted to pick some gaming royalty for the future. There have been some games that have stood the test of times, games that people will play forever on into infinitum, such as Super Mario Brothers, the original Legend of Zelda. There are many games like that just exist now, just in the ethos. We want to pick some more contemporary ones that are going to stand the time. I mean, not too contemporary because mine was literally made 10 years ago, one of mine. But we're gonna pick 3 contemporary classics we see that we believe will outlive us.
Everything is going to outlive us. Let's be fair. All digital mediums shall outlive us.
Well, that's true, but I mean, it won't be just some obscure thing that people that one or two people go, do you remember that one thing?
You remember that thing?
Yeah, it'll be something that is talked about forever. So why don't you go first, man?
So I'm going to start with the most recent one out of all of these, I believe, that we will talk about here today.
Hold on. Before you get into it, I do want to just let everybody else out there know the rules, because we talked about the rules, but we never told them what our rules are. Our rules are it's slightly more contemporary, but we don't have an actual nailed down time limit. Our number 2 rule is you have to pick a specific game, not like a whole series of games or whatever. That's going to stand. So, you can't just say Zelda. You would have to say Breath of the Wild or something like that. And then I think that was all the rules.
Basically.
We're going to do 3, but I just want to clear that up. That's the kind of rules we're going by with everybody. So go ahead. Sorry I interrupted.
Yeah. No problem. It's absolutely 100% going to be Baldur's Gate 3. It's probably going to be the most recent one out of all of these, I feel like. And it's funny because it's going to be memorable for so many reasons. I mean, it broke molds. It got other developers bickering with each other about what a level of quality is. It brought people into a genre that would not normally play something like this, like myself. had me even purchase another game that they made within this same vein that I would have never touched in my entire life. It has been nothing short of like a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 is still absolutely massively popular. It's going to be going for quite some time, even if Larian is not going to be specifically like adding more official stuff to it, maybe some patches here and there. But I mean, outside of that, they're moving on to other things. But this is going to be one of those things that's going to stand the test of time. It brought everybody into this under this tent, and it still is so unique and different that everybody is playing it. Like, we've had conversations before about like, oh, how about when you get to the spot, like what happened there, what happened with this, what happened, oh, I've never seen that, never saw that, like what the heck is going on. It's so player driven and of such high quality. There's no way that this thing is going to just go away.
So one of the funny things that you guys should all know about is when we picked this topic, we immediately had to decide, because two of the games we both would have said. So we were like, just so that we make sure we both have like a full 3, one of us should take one of these games, the other should take 2, instead of 2 of our games being exactly the same. Baldur's Gate 3 would have been on my list if not for you getting it. I think that cultural phenomenon doesn't even quite cut it. I mean, this game, you said there's nothing like this game. I would slightly disagree with you on that, as that there have been CRPGs forever. But, like, this is almost the killer app for CRPGs in a lot of way. Like, it was the one that, like, brought even the non-CRPG diehards in, just because of how good it was, how interesting it was. It is a game that's going to be talked about forever. And one of the interesting things is, one of my games that I'm going to talk about first was, in my opinion, the killer app for open world games. And like, that's one of the things that kind of comes in with these games. It's like that game that makes that genre really relevant. I'm not saying CRPGs weren't relevant before. They had a lot of great entries to them. You had Wasteland, like all the Wastelands. You had the original Fallouts. Like, there are great, awesome CRPGs out there, and I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying this is the one that like pulled everyone in, like all gamers united on this CRPG, and that's just something that doesn't go away. I think that the other thing is too, this is about to get mod support, and one of the ones that I'm going to talk about got mod support and hasn't had a substantial update to it in probably like 8 years, but like the mods keep it alive because people love it so much. And I think Baldur's Gate 3, that's one of the reasons it's going to be around forever, is Larian's being kind of smart with it. They did no paid DLC, so the game that you paid for was the game you got. They've patched it and they've updated some things that they wanted to add to it that they just didn't get time to. And now they're going to add mod support and give it to the fans. I think this is genius, because then the fans are just going to sit there and make stuff on it from now until the end of time. And yeah, like, even if you don't like Baldur's Gate 3, you know what it is, you know? And that's in itself enough to be gaming royalty as far as I'm concerned, you know? And I'll go even one step further, and I hate to say this because I don't like D&D as a tabletop role-playing game, and I think that there are way better entry points for tabletop role-playing games than D&D, but like, it's another one of those things that like, people are going to go out and buy D&D books because they play Baldur's Gate, you know? And that's something in itself, an accomplishment that none of the other games that I have on my list is going to bring forth, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually, you made me think of something real quick.
Sure.
Bear with me for 1 second.
You're fine.
So it's come down. Yeah, it's come down a little bit in price. So whenever this game really kind of exploded, The D&D, the Baldur's Gate book, The Descent to Avernus, or Avernus, went like impossible to find for a minute. Even on Amazon, it was like $65. It's starting to come back down in price at like $32.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, it's finding its way into other things.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Wizards is like the characters are finding their way into Magic the Gathering. Those individuals who played those characters are now pretty widely known for those characters overall. I don't know if you saw or not, but on the D&D official YouTube channel, they did a actual tabletop session with the lady who plays Karlach and the guy who plays Asterion.
Yeah, I didn't watch the session, but I know they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's become extremely popular. Something like that just doesn't go away.
It doesn't. It really lives and breathes in the zeitgeist of gamers everywhere, and I think it will continue to do so forever. And I've even said it is a game, much like my first one, that will just have me keep coming back. Like, whenever I am sick or tired of the games that I'm playing, it will be a game that I put on my hard drive and I boot up, you know? And that's one of the things that makes it, like, history making for me.
And Zach, what is that game? What is that first game?
Anybody who has listened to this podcast for any amount of time is already rolling their eyes. Because, yes, I'm going to be a cuck for Skyrim yet again. I really am. I'm a simp for Skyrim. And I would have said Skyrim had this topic come up anyway, but I just started another game in it, and it is extremely rewarding, and there are some things I hate about Skyrim. Okay, I hate Bethesda. I hate how much Bethesda basically monetizes other people's works now, and uses it to their gain. Like their 10-year anniversary special edition was literally nothing but mods added in. Like, it was all mods that other people, like fans, had done that they made official into it. And I'm sure those people got compensated, but they probably got compensated pennies on the dollar for how much Bethesda actually made off that. But there's a reason that this game keeps getting re-released, keeps coming out on new platforms, keeps coming out with this kind of stuff in it. There's a reason that the modding community is huge for Skyrim. And that is, in my opinion, it's kind of the killer app for open world games. Look, I know everybody out there is going to be like GTA 3. GTA was the first. GTA 3 was the first real open world game. This was the killer. This was the one that made every other company go, we need to make open world games. In my opinion, this is the reason we've got Ubisoft the way they are, is because of Skyrim. Skyrim was the linchpin on that. It is easily the best example of a good working open world that you've ever seen. I mean, to this day, I don't think anybody's unlocked it as well as they have. I really don't. This game tells interesting, deep stories. It tells hundreds of them, and it tells them in any direction you want to go in. And that is true open world. It truly feels like the only thing you have to do is that open tutorial. And I have done that opening tutorial so goddamn many times. I wish there was a skip button. But once you're done with that open tutorial, you don't even have to walk to the first city. You could just turn in a direction and run. And guess what? You're going to find something. You're not even just going to find something. You're going to find something interesting and engaging. And that's huge to me. That's huge. I put another $10 into it, if you can believe it, and I bought the Bard's College expansion, which was a mod. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It also interweaves the original story again, which was hysterical because it almost felt like the original story. I was doing it for different reasons, and it made it new again. Skyrim is just never going to die. It is always going to be there, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say this right now. Elder Scrolls 6 will never live up to Skyrim. Oblivion and Morrowind don't live up to Skyrim. Sorry, Morrowind fans. It doesn't. It wasn't nearly as good or as great as Skyrim is. it did not have the wide base appeal that Skyrim does. Skyrim is the one that everybody's going to remember and they're all going to know.
It's kind of like, it's not what I've always found interesting about the conversation surrounding Skyrim is there's always somebody in the conversation somewhere, one way or another, who is like, well, yeah, I mean, it's a Bethesda game. It's not that it's a Bethesda game. It's the fact that it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have other games that Bethesda has made that are of the same ilk, and they don't play out the same way, a la Starfield and even Fallout 4.
Yeah. I mean, Fallout 4 and 3 are probably two very popular games. They don't have anywhere near the appeal that Skyrim does.
I mean, it was one of those things. Skyrim was kind of like how, like, we've been talking about Baldur's Gate now for over a year at this point. Mm-hmm. That's 2011's Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
That thing came out, and I remember, people saying, "Oh, I'm not going to school that day because I'm playing that." Like, people not going to school, people not going to work, people this, people that, calling off any way that they could to play the game. And again, it's another one that brought people into that genre overall. Like I've told the story before, the very first time I was exposed to Elder Scrolls was Elder Scrolls 4, and all I wanted to do was climb the highest mountain and just jump off it and watch my dude ragdoll. Like that's all the enjoyment I got out of that game. And then at one point, I had purchased my copy just because of Skyrim, because the one Best Buy over near Cleveland was going out of business, and I was like, well, it's on sale, I may as well. And it took like a couple hours, but once it clicked hard. And I've never Skyrim is it's funny because you had mentioned about like sick of other games and everything. Skyrim is I am ill and I need like a comfort thing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that I do that a lot. Is if I am not feeling well, I will just wrap up in a blanket and just hide in the living room and play Skyrim and not do anything in particular, because I never really do anything in particular. Like you said, there's so much to do in that game. You just pick a direction and go, and you just have things, whatever you come across, to do. It's going to be one of those that's, especially Skyrim, that's over 10 years old at this point. Because it came out in 2011, so it's 13 years old almost.
Yeah.
And it's still getting re-released on stuff.
Yeah. It is crazy the amount of attention that game still gets from the modding community and everything. And like I said, when I started back up, that wasn't even the only mod I got. I got a whole mod about pit fighting that was free, and I got a companion named Inigo. That's a Khajiit that has 7,000 lines of dialogue and actually has whole conversations with your other follower, because he doesn't count against the follower count, so he's a follower without being a follower. And so he will just start talking to the characters you have and respond to things. Like, that kind of love and attention that game gets. And again, I don't know that I should be giving Bethesda all the credit. I think the reason Skyrim, I think definitely they hit something when they came out. Like, the technology was in the right place. I don't think that they could get the console version of Morrowind right. So that got a lot of stuff chopped out. And then I think Oblivion was just kind of rough. And I think that the technology got in the right place for both console gamings and PC gamings, for them to be able to release Skyrim. And it was just the right time, right place, perfect type of thing. But at the same time, like, still to this day, you can go back to that game and discover something new. And that's awesome. It's just awesome. That game will never be forgotten,
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your second one?
So my second one is one that I have not shut up about for a while, and one that I came to kind of late after the fact. And I'm not going to beat it to death because I've talked about this game so many times, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing me talk about it. But I do feel like Undertale is going to be one of those games that
this
is
definitely
like
an episode
solidified.
of these guys.
These guys, yeah.
Oh, here we go, Skyrim and Undertale.
It's a short show. It's a short show, so you don't have to deal with it for too long. But I mean, just briefly. I mean, truthfully, because I mean, what else is there to be said that hasn't already been said about the game? I feel like Undertale was one of those games that like really put indies on the map.
Yeah.
Overall, because of what such a small team, mostly one dude, was able to do, and to buck all these other trends and conventions and make this style of game that has since been imitated overall, even though it itself is somewhat of an imitation to Earthbound. But I mean, it has spawned so many different things. I mean, it's so extremely popular. Anybody who's played the game knows like all the music. It's something that is often spoken about in Reverie more than anything else. And I know it was the first indie game that I myself played, even though I didn't come around to it till 2018, 2019, long after it had already been released.
So I'll say some stuff about Undertale. I have never played Undertale personally. I will say this: I have watched an entire playthrough of Undertale with Game Grumps, which I found extremely entertaining. But the thing about Undertale, and the thing you said about indies, I think in a lot of ways is true. We had a good amount of indies before that. I mean, I believe Braid was before that. We also had Super Meat Boy was before that.
Oh, yes.
So there was Xbox Arcade, but it wasn't nearly as like
mainstream.
Not even mainstream. I think Toby Fox really proved that, like, hey, if you want to make a game, just get on your computer and figure it out. Like, that's the point where we're at now. Almost like that first time somebody like looked at a YouTube channel and was going, I could just make a YouTube channel. I didn't realize I could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just makes it accessible. And Undertale did that in a lot of ways. And I think it's one of the reasons that over 2,000 indie games come out every day on Steam, because anybody can just get on, and that's not always a good thing. There are a lot of indie games that should not exist. But,
yes, that is true.
But still, it did unlock something in the collective zeitgeist, I feel like, that really, really put forth. And I do want to say the writing on that game is stellar. It's absolutely stellar. There are legitimate moments, and everybody out there knows I'm a huge fan of Game Grumps, but there were times where I was laughing at the game, not them. You know, just like the legitimately good writing. Like, it is a good quality game. And it also, it does some really interesting stuff with, like, the good and the bad ending and all of that stuff. I wish there was kind of a neutral ending. But, like, I think that, like, there is a lot to that game that's really cool. The music is amazing. It is phenomenal. I have listened to all the music. It is on my Spotify playlists. It's great. It is a good game. And I do think because one of the things about this is we're not necessarily talking about our favorite games, right? We're talking about games that we pick that will always exist. You know what I mean? That will always be talked about. And I think it is a good one. Do I think it's going to be talked about like Baldur's Gate 3 or Skyrim? No. But no. I think there will always be a special edition on there. There will always be an indie game, an amount of people going, I need to check that out, you know? So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, what do you got next?
Oh, I got to do my second one.
You do? Yeah, that's how this works. I do one, you do one, then I did one, and now you do one.
You're right.
And then afterwards, I'm going to do one more, and then you're going to do one more.
All right, so let me ask you this. I have a long shot and a sure thing. Which one do you want me to hear or talk about first?
Oh, interesting.
Because the long shot is kind of my prediction, but I don't know if the world's going to agree with it.
Let's do the long shot. I'm curious.
All right, this one I don't know if it's going to be the one forever. It's going to be mentioned forever because I think it really depends on the next one in the series and the one after that. But my long shot is Monster Hunter World. And the reason that I think this is you had this game called Monster Hunter, which was kind of almost Dark Souls before Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Like it was or Happy Dark Souls. Like it was a very hard game to play.
Dark Souls.
You had to really know specifics about it to kind of be able to play it. And then they did Monster Hunter World, and a lot of Monster Hunter fans, some people I know, I'm looking at you, Asylum, hated the game because of what they did, but they made it more accessible to your everyday players. You know, to the point where IGN gave it great scores, it got a lot of big press, and now Monster Hunter is this thing. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't a thing before. It was a big thing. It was making plenty of money for Capcom, but I would say Monster Hunter World was the one that, like, elevated that series. Kind of like what we've been talking about. That, like, killer app that, like, brings people into a genre that weren't there before. I think Monster Hunter World did that. I think Monster Hunter World was amazing. I think Monster Hunter Rise was crap. Yes, I still think it's crap. Fuck you, Monster Hunter people. That being said, you've got Monster Hunter Wilds on the horizon, where we've been getting a bunch of trailers in the last month for weapons and whatnot. But I don't think that's going to live up to Worlds. I think Worlds is going to be the one that's remembered. And the reason this is a long shot is it's not like I don't see a ton of people talking about Worlds right now. They're either talking about Wilds, which is coming out, they're talking about Rise. They're not really like talking a ton about Worlds, but I think in 5 years from now, people are going to be talking about Worlds as the greatest Monster Hunter World game, the greatest Monster Hunter game that ever came out. Yeah, come at me, internet. Don't give a fuck. I think it's going to be the best, and the reason is because it brought all those people in. It brought all those players in. It gave it widespread appeal to the community at large. And for me, it is still a game I pick up. I have already bought it twice, and I'm probably going to buy it a third time on my PC at some point. Like I will eventually break down and buy it again and play through the whole thing again. It is an amazing game with tons of hours of good stuff in it. And yeah, I think Monster Hunter World, I think it's a long shot, but I think at the end of the day, when all the dust is settled, that's going to be the one that people remember.
Well, you know what? I don't think it's as much of a long shot as you may believe that it is.
Okay.
Purely because I had forgotten that Monster Hunter games even existed until World came out.
Right.
And that was the community at large overall as well. It's the game that brought everybody back into, it's like, hey, in case you guys forgot about it, there's a Monster Hunter series that Capcom does. Yep. I should have looked it up while you were talking about it, but there was a gap between the previous one and that one. I think it was a PlayStation, a PSP game that was the last Monster Hunter game that came out before World did.
Yeah. It was mostly a PSP series, if I recall correctly.
I think, yes, there's something to that. And then it was like a Century 2 or something.
Yeah.
Because before that, I believe it was like a PS2 game. So it was one of those things to where it kind of went through this evolution. And then just kind of wrapped itself up in a cocoon somewhere and turned into a butterfly, as it were, and brought it back into the consciousness. And then from there, there was the major expansion. Was it Iceborne?
Iceborne. Yeah.
Iceborne came out, and then from there we've had Rise, and then we have Wilds coming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
and I would argue that even though Rise sucks, Rise took a lot of inspiration from World, even though they were developed at the same time. You can see a lot of crossover in, like, the ease of play and ease of access, And I think that, Wilds will be the same way. Anybody who thinks Wilds is not going to be a sequel to World is crazy. I think it's 100% a sequel to World, And I think that's where this series is going to continue to, live and breathe. And I think that's because of World's contribution to it, So yeah, I still think it might be a long shot. We'll see, but yeah. So what's your third one, sir? Your final one?
My last one, I actually changed this one a couple times.
I've changed mine a couple times too.
Yeah, I changed my last one a couple times. But what I eventually landed on is one that I didn't think I was going to land on, but I kind of thought about it, and it kind of really made sense. Batman Arkham Asylum.
Oh, that's not bad.
Batman Arkham Asylum did a thing. It did two separate things at once. First, it kind of created a blueprint for other like beat 'em up superhero games to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, very much like
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Beat down, counter, beat down.
Beat down, counter, beat down, counter. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah.
That is where that all started. But it also broke a curse. That it did still kind of linger and still does hang out from time to time, to be absolutely fair, but it took the stank off of licensed games. Because superhero games and licensed games never really fared very well overall. They were typically always regarded as the Christmas gift that a family member who knows nothing about gaming gets somebody. Until Arkham Asylum came along. It told its story and was just so different in that it kind of meshed a couple different things together. It gave a vibe of almost like when I was playing it, at least, gave me very much Metroid vibes.
Dude, it was a Metroidvania. Anybody who says that's not a Metroidvania game's crazy. It's a 3D Metroidvania game. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but excellent story. They somehow made an island be distinct like areas and sections, and they made being somebody like Batman fun in a way that's not just like, this is the Batman game where the Batman does the Batman things.
Right.
It was excellent. I mean, it spawned so many sequels, and then the Gotham Knights happened as well, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, it's definitely one of those games that it broke a curse, it broke a mold, and it absolutely 100% established a precedent that other games still follow here today. I would truly and honestly do not believe that like the Spider-Man games or anything else like that uses that same sort of beat 'em up formula would ever exist without Arkham Asylum.
What's crazy too is the Spider-Man games don't even just copy that. They also copy the like stealth situations and the like, stealth takedowns and stuff. I think that like Arkham Asylum did something really good, which was here's what it's like to beat Batman, and no game had ever done that. Like just no game had ever accomplished that before. The weird thing, it's interesting to me because. I don't know if this one will stand the test, even though I think this is the one that deserves to stand the test. Like, I think a lot of people might remember Arkham City more because of the open world stuff. But honestly, Arkham City's blueprints were all in Arkham Asylum, and I would argue that Arkham Asylum is a more unique, interesting experience. I loved Arkham City. I loved the free range running around the city as Batman thing, and I think that's where you got to go with that. But Arkham Asylum was a 3D Metroidvania game. Like, there's like nothing like Arkham Asylum. Like, it is such an interesting and cool experience. And I would argue they do some of the Metroidvania stuff better than Metroid or Castlevania, just because like it was easier to tell where I had to go next, Whereas like sometimes you find a new part for Metroid, or you find a new item in Castlevania, and it's like, where the fuck do I use this, And like with Arkham Asylum is like, oh, now I can blow that one wall up that I couldn't blow up before. Like Arkham Asylum is truly a great game when you really think about where it was, where superhero games were licensed, any licensed game really, and what they did. I will say I am sick to death of that combat system, but at the same time, that's where it started. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't get mad at them. They did that so easy and good that everybody's like, oh, let's just do that. You look at every WB game after that has that same system. Even the fucking Lord of the Rings shit uses Arkham Asylum's combat system. You know, and then it even spills over into the Spider-Man stuff, into the other stuff. I think it should. If it doesn't, it will just be because of like branding, but I think it should. It's the one, you know, of that series. That's a good pick. It's a good pick.
Yes. What's your last?
My last one was really hard too, because I wanted to do another long shot here, but I had a hard time honestly picking it. And then the one that came to mind is just perfect, and it will stand the test of time. I truly believe it, if for nothing else than to be an example. And that is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky will be a GOAT. And the reason No Man's Sky is a GOAT is because it was not good when it came out. And they have turned it into one of the most interesting and in-depth experiences you can have on a video game system. They continue to update it. They have never charged a penny for any updates. Not any penny. The only time they recharged people, and this isn't recharging, but when they put it on Xbox, they did another version so that you could purchase it on Xbox. Other than that, they have never actually charged for any of their DLC updates. They've just added stuff for the last, what is it, like 10 years, I want to say at this point? 8 years, something like that. The other thing, and the reason that this thing is truly going to survive the test of time, is because this is the one that every company points at when their game comes out and sucks. When their game comes out and sucks, they're like, no, we're going to do a No Man's Sky. This is the one that they're like, No Man's Sky did it, we can do it. And then they fail and their company goes under. This is the game that actually did it. This is the game that came out, everybody was really disappointed with it, and they shut up, put their heads down, and got themselves out of the fucking hole. To the point where Hello Games is thriving and even publishing some games now. People are excited for Light No Fire because of No Man's Sky's success. I think No Man's Sky is also a shining example of how to do sustained support for a game that is already out. And even the games as service games do not understand how to do that properly or well. What's interesting too is there are no microtransactions in No Man's Sky. So they're not charging you for the new updates, and they're not charging you for any microtransactions whatsoever. There's no microtransactions in it. Everything is in-game earned currency, period. No Man's Sky is great. It's going to survive. And Hello Games is also devoted to keeping it around. I think at the very least it's going to be around as long as that company is around. And once that company shuts the doors, people will keep it alive. It's just one of those things, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's really important about, you know, this is the shining example of, you know, it can be done. I would argue that it also kind of put everybody in the mindset of
that it was possible.
Well, it's fine. Put it out however it is, and we'll fix it later.
Right.
But that's not what this conversation is about.
No.
It's.
I would argue that every game we've mentioned here has also brought something negative to the table. You know, that comes with the legend status, right? Like, right. I mean, Skyrim. It's the reason that everything's got to be a fucking open world now, you know?
Yes.
Fucking Arkham, it's the reason everybody has that fucking combat system now. You know, like all of these games have been so impactful that they brought negative with the positive, you know? And definitely that is, I don't think Hello Games was intending on like it getting a poor reception. I think that's the difference is like companies now are like, we'll just do a No Man's Sky. And then they just put out shit and try to fix it in the aftermath. Whereas I think legitimately they were like, here's our game. And people were like, this isn't good. And we were like, oh no, you know, like I think, and I think that's one of the big differences and reasons why you have that, like why they were successful and nobody else has really been successful since.
Yeah. It's earned its status of that game. You know, it has gone through such a transformation. It was regarded as one of like the biggest scams ever in gaming. Truthfully, before like Cyberpunk came along, It ran this game of, hey, everything you think it can do, yeah, guess what? It can do it, whether or not we're going to be able to do it or not. And then it came out in such a state that everybody over at Hello Games like hid away.
Yeah.
And worked their asses off until it was finally in a presentable state.
Yeah.
And they then said, okay, now that it's fixed, let's make the game that we wanted to make from the jump. Yes. And from there, just kind of built everything out and made it the success story that it is, so that people look to it as that example of, well, it can be done. You can put a game out, and even if it's not what you want, or if it has come out in a state that's not necessarily the greatest overall, you can still turn it into a success story overall.
Yeah. I definitely think so. I think it's going to be one of those things that, if nothing else, it's going to stand the test of time of maybe they can make a No Man's Sky out of it, And I think that's the phrase that keeps it alive. So, real quick, do you have any, since this show is not really long at all, real quick, do you have any almosts?
Yeah, one of the ones that I had for my last one that I put on there was God of War 2018.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, I mean, your reaction is kind of part of the reason why that it didn't go on there.
I would have let it go.
Well, the reason why I didn't put it on there is, it did something in that it reinvented what you thought you knew of that game and that series.
Yeah.
And it was an example of, the change that's possible overall. But kind of like what we just got done talking about is there are better examples out there.
Unfortunately. I would say, too, God of War 18 did a narrative game in a landscape that's increasingly not narrative, and we're very successful with it, which is good, my one was Destiny, like Destiny 2.
I thought about it. I
really thought about it, because I think Destiny, even if the servers shut down, is still going to be talked about forever, especially the most recent iteration. And it sucks, because I think Bungie's a shit company. In fairness, they've always kind of been a shit company, even when they were making good games. Like, you watch any documentary on Halo, it's like the place has always been on fire. But I think that, I don't know, it's tough too. Because the other thing is, I really wanted to put a games of service on here. Really wanted to put one on my list. But none of them have proved to me that they're willing to do what they've got to do to keep the fucker alive,
Funny enough, it's been the games that aren't billed as a game as service
that do the service,
more that do the service,
which is why No Man's Sky is on here. No Man's Sky.
It's almost as if.
Yeah.
It's almost as if.
Yeah.
There are lessons to be learned that no one wants to learn.
I mean, I also almost put Fortnite on here. I don't think there's going to be a point in time in our lives where people don't talk about Fortnite.
That's true. Yeah, as much as it pains me. Yeah, Fortnite, Call of Duty, stuff like that.
Okay, so Call of Duty. Here's the thing, though. And I thought about those annualized franchises, because I thought about Call of Duty. The reason I didn't put Call of Duty on here is it's annualized.
Yeah.
Pick one that's good. Okay, maybe Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Modern Warfare.
Okay.
OG Modern Warfare would
maybe
be the
we
one.
could put that in there. But overall, these annualized franchises, they just vomit them out every year, and I think it actually hurts them. It hurts their credibility later.
Oh, it's been hurting them for a while, but that's yet again a lesson that cannot be learned by anybody. It's funny. Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, same
That
thing.
was the one where they were like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this every single year. And they didn't. But then they decided, well, we'll do it every other year. Yeah. And then even still, bro, that's too much. Now they're every 2 to 3 years. Okay, that's much better. If you want to crank out a game, quote unquote, 2 years, 3 years, I would consider is a decent amount of quality to crank out a series. Annualized franchises, there's a reason why there's a lot I don't enjoy.
Yeah, I think one of my big problems too with the open world stuff like Ubisoft does is And why Skyrim is good and Ubisoft games aren't is it's just a bunch of bullshit on a map. It's not even like engrossing or entertaining stuff anymore. It's a lot of like, go here, have a drinking contest. Like the side quests aren't interesting. There's nothing cool about them. Like Skyrim, like even the dungeons you went into had backstories. That if you found the pieces of paper in the dungeons, you could figure out what fucking happened there. Like every part of that tells a story in itself. It's not just a bunch of shit on a map that you got to run around to grabbing, you know? The only other one I considered was Red Dead Redemption 2, I think was a pretty big deal, you know? I didn't actually like GTA 5 that much. I hated on the people. I know the people out there are going to hate on me because they're online and all that, but they don't do it for me, you know?
I feel like Red Dead, had they not like done what they did with Red Dead Online, I feel like that overshadowed everything with Red Dead 2.
I agree. All right, so that's it, guys. Do you guys have any gaming goats, gaming legends, gaming games that will survive the test of time?
Gaming games that game.
Comment below with them, and we will read them out next week. Otherwise, we are going to go to a very short news segment. We'll be right back.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, brings us to our third segment, the news. Neil likes to collect smaller news stories that don't necessarily deserve a talking point. Let you guys know about them. Let me know about them. We talk about them. Although I think I was the one who collected this news story.
Yeah, this one was yours. And funny enough,
I broke this.
You broke the story.
It was an exclusive. I was only the 17,000th person to see the news story on IGN.
Well, what's funny is, like, you messaged me about it like 5 minutes after we finished last week's episode.
Yeah, I did. I messaged you a bunch of things. I don't even remember. So Tango Gameworks, they are the guys who made Hi-Fi Rush. Their whole company got shut down by Microsoft for no good fucking reason.
No good reason.
So Krafton, which is another company owned by Microsoft, has decided to purchase Tango Gameworks and keep the studio relatively alive. They're going to have to lay off, I think, not lay off, but just not bring on like half the staff, I think. But with this, it will allow them to continue to work on Hi-Fi Rush, possibly Hi-Fi Rush sequels, stuff like that. Look, this is good. I definitely, if I was one of the employees of Tango Gameworks who had just been laid off by Microsoft, I certainly wouldn't feel great about being hired by Microsoft again after they laid me off with absolutely no warning whatsoever. They could just do that to Krafton tomorrow, and then you're back out on the streets. But I'm not going to knock you getting a job back, especially when you're making quality games and should have never been closed down in the first place.
So I was just double checking on this here with Krafton. Krafton is actually like not a part of Microsoft.
Oh, really?
They're completely separate. Krafton, was a South Korean game publisher. They are partially responsible for PUBG.
Oh, yeah, but PUBG. Are you sure? Because I read in the article the reason that they published, because PUBG was a Microsoft exclusive for a while, and the reason for that was because Krafton owned by Microsoft. I'm looking at it now. You guys are seeing us find out about it in the real time, right in front of your eyes, which is not good to watch. It's not fun to watch.
It's not good to watch. It's not good to listen to. Filling time. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get you a full episode. It's like when you're listening to a CD and you come across a track that's only 2 minutes and 10 seconds long.
I think
you want to
right.
get yourself a 3 minute and 25 second song.
I think you're right, actually. I think it's not, even though I swore the IGN article said that they were owned by Microsoft. But It's 10 cents, which still kind of
not much better.
Not much better. 10 cents a pretty terrible company, but still they exist and they will continue to exist. But I think you're right. I think they're just like more friendly to Microsoft. Maybe that's what was going on. But yeah, does not look like they are actually owned by Microsoft. But
I mean, to be fair, when you're somebody like Microsoft, everybody wants to be your friend. So,
I don't. Fuck you, Microsoft. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Everybody but Zach wants to be your friend.
I get what you're saying.
Make that the title of this episode. No context. Everybody but Zach wants to be your friend.
Everybody but Zach wants to be your friend. That's a good episode name. Yeah, so I still think that... Oh, this is the IGN article. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. No, Crafton... Why did I think this said Microsoft?
I do not know.
Oh, that's why. Crafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition. I failed to read that. Skimming got in the way. Still, that's great. There's still work. They're going to get their jobs back, and we will probably get more Hi-Fi Rush in the future, which is great. And maybe some more Evil Within or whatever else they decide to do. It's a good company.
Hopefully not Evil Within. Not good game.
It's a good company. They should continue to stay alive,
Yeah, it is kind of sad because I feel like there may have been people who... Because Hi-Fi Rush was very much a passion project. Tango Gameworks always did like the dark, gloomy horror thing, and that was the game they took a chance on. Shadow dropped it and everything, and lo and behold, it was great. Everybody responded well to it. It was award-winning. And then after all of that, Microsoft said, yeah, nah, deuces. And everybody else, everybody who worked on that game, there had to have been some people who got out of the industry after that. Yeah. They've moved on to other things, maybe other companies, maybe other things outside of gaming. Yeah. And that was a lot of talent that was lost as a result of that.
I think that it's crazy too that the whole, I've said this a billion times. I do not understand shutting this company down by Microsoft.
No.
Nobody
understood it.
This was the only game that that Microsoft had first party that was a success. That was a critical success. Was this? It was it. So to shut this down blows my mind still to this day. But
yeah,
I think that's it for news, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna wrap this short one up, guys. We'll be right back in a second.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything?
Yes, sir. We are.
Sir.
How far in are we on Ordo?
We are two episodes away from the finale of that bad boy.
2 episodes away from the finale. Mm-hmm. And I loved playing that. I loved playing that game, and it is going to soon be coming to a close. But I don't know if it would be me announcing things. But we're talking about getting the next season here thrown together at some point. So the second hunt, which will be teased as to what that will be.
We won't be nearly as long waiting for that either, because we were waiting to do the first season with the release of the game. The game is out in the ethos right now, so we're just going to release the second season when we get it done. I know we're shooting slightly for end of October. I don't think that's going to happen, but it will either be late this year or early next year where you guys will be able to listen to that podcast. But yes, we are doing the second season, and there's also a bunch of TTRPG stuff in the works. I am probably going to try to this week actually do a review for the Bard's College expansion in Skyrim, which I'm excited about, so I'm going to just plug that one on the video game front. And then, of course, Prelude to Divorce has come back. Me and my wife are playing Golf with Your Friends. and trying not to become enemies. So, other than that, guys, you can check out everything we have to offer here at the channel. You can also check out our merchandise over at wizardsrestbite.com. Just go to the shop tab and then click on the option for Old Man Gaming. Other than that, you guys can check us out on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Twitter at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord. Link is in the description below. Influences in all of our shows from there. And as long as you guys keep watching and you keep listening, we will keep making these. See you guys next time. Pause.
What if we just if we just do like the absolute opposite and just like try to make it as short as humanly possible? Just like go.
This is like a 5-minute show, like we're trolling our audience. I think these are the games. This game. What are your games? This game. Sweet.
That's
news.
Cool. That's great. Anyways, news.
Tango Gameworks back. Okay. I want to plug this show and this show. Bye, everybody.